In a small village near the wide brown river, there lived a boy named Chukwu. Chukwu was 12 years old, thin as a dry stick, and braver than most grown men. His mother, Adaeze, was the only family he had. His father had gone into the forest 3 years before to find firewood and never came back. The villagers said the forest had swallowed him. Chukwu did not believe this. He believed his father was still alive, somewhere deep inside the trees, waiting. Every morning, Chukwu would stand at the river's edge and look across the water to where the dark forest began. Every morning, he would whisper, "I will find you, Papa." The trouble started in the dry season. The river began to shrink. First slowly, just a few steps of brown mud where clean water used to be. Then faster, until one morning, Chukwu woke up and the water had pulled back so far that children were walking where canoes used to float. The elders gathered under the great Iroko tree. "The river god is angry," said the oldest elder, Mazi Okonkwo, whose white beard touched his chest. "Something has been taken from the river, something that does not belong to the living." The villagers looked at one another with frightened eyes. "What must be done?" Adaeze asked. Mazi Okonkwo was quiet for a long time. Then he said softly, "Someone must go to the bottom of the river before the next full moon. They must return what was stolen, or the river will die. And when the river dies..." He stopped. He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Nobody moved. Nobody volunteered. The river was said to have a deep hole at its center, a black, cold mouth that went down forever. No one who had jumped in had ever touched the bottom. No one who had tried to find out what lived there had come back to tell the story. Chukwu stood up. "I will go," he said. His mother grabbed his arm. "You will not." "I will go," he said again, gently removing her hand, "because I think I know what was taken, and I think I know where my father is." That night, Chukwu could not sleep. He lay on his mat and stared at the ceiling of their mud hut. He thought about his father's leather pouch, the one that had hung around his father's neck every day. It was filled with river stones his father had collected as a young man. Stones he said were sacred. Stones the elders had warned him never to take outside the village boundary. On the last day his father was seen, Chukwu had found the pouch lying near the riverbank, half buried in sand. He had picked it up. He had carried it home and hidden it under his sleeping mat, too afraid to tell his mother, too ashamed to tell the elders. He reached under the mat now and pulled the pouch out. It felt warm in his hands, heavier than it should have been. "I am the reason the river is dying." He pressed his face into the mat and cried without sound, the way boys cry when they do not want their mothers to hear. At dawn, Chukwu walked to the river alone. He stood at the edge of the dark water. The birds were silent. The air was perfectly still, as if the whole earth was holding its breath. He tied the pouch around his own neck, the way his father used to wear it. Then he stepped in. The water was cold, cold like something that had never known sunlight. He walked until it reached his waist, then his chest, then his chin. Then he let go of the ground beneath him and sank. This is where the story should end for the brave, but it does not. Under the water, Chukwu saw him, his father, standing on the riverbed, still and silent, his eyes open, looking up. He was not dead, Chukwu could see that, but he was not fully alive either. He was trapped between, a man caught in the anger of a god, held in the cold dark as payment for what had been taken. Chukwu swam down with burning lungs. He reached his father's chest. He untied the pouch from his own neck with shaking fingers. He pressed it against his father's heart. The water began to move. A deep sound came from somewhere far below. A groan, low and long, like the earth shifting in its sleep. The stones in the pouch began to glow, faint and gold. Chukwu felt something push him, hard, upward. He broke the surface, gasping and choking. He swam to the bank and collapsed in the mud. He lay there with his eyes closed, chest heaving, ears ringing. Then he heard a sound beside him. A cough, a gasp, the sound of water being spat out of a man's chest. He opened his eyes. His father was lying next to him on the muddy bank, soaking wet, blinking at the pale morning sky. Behind them, the river began to rise, slowly at first, then faster, filling itself back up, smooth and dark and full of life, the way a river is supposed to be. Ades came running from the village, screaming her husband's name. The elders followed. The children followed. The whole village stood at the river's edge and watched the water come back. Mazi Okonkwo looked at Chukwu for a long time. "You knew," the old man said quietly. "Yes," Chukwu said. "And still you went." Chukwu said nothing. He was watching his mother hold his father like she would never let go again, crying and laughing at the same time, the way people do when pain and joy arrive together. The old man put a hand on the boy's shoulder. "That," he said, "is what courage costs." And from that day, the river never ran dry again. The village remembered. The story was told. And whenever a child asked why the river was always full, the elders would say, "Because once a boy paid its price."